Yeah, good to have you here. Once again, I have another exciting video for you. Yeah, and what I have for you is titled Contradiction, Contrary Statements, and Inconsistencies. Yes, Cult 101 number 3. Contradiction, Contrary Statements, and Inconsistencies. That's what we will be talking about today. Now, as you can see, this is a very short topic, as we will just merely be discussing and giving some examples of what those are. Now, one of the things with cults and so forth is that it is marked with these three things that I mentioned, right? That is contradiction, contrary statements, and inconsistencies. Now, for today, I'll be focusing a lot more on other denominations rather than the Seventh-day Adventists. So I'll touch a little bit on them, but I'll deal with other denominations also. Now, to give you a better example as to the contradictions and contrary statements of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, I have a video titled, I have videos on that, which you can find in the playlist section titled Contradiction and Contrary Statements of Ellen G. White. And you'll find this with just about every single denomination that every single cult should actually say, filled with contradictions and contrary statements and inconsistencies. Now, let me just give you some of the inconsistencies with the Adventist Church, because the contradiction and contrary statements are there already in the playlist. I'm not going to touch on it, but just give you the inconsistencies. When I did my 3-part series on the Sabbath, right, and I pointed out 48 objections as to why they don't believe that the Sabbath mentioned in Colossians 2 verse 16 is the weekly Sabbath. And there are two arguments that are raised. One, the plural Sabbath days mentioned. The fact that it says days, you understand, it cannot be talking the weekly Sabbath. And I showed you in that video how the word Sabbath days is mentioned about 9 times in the New Testament, right? 8 of the first 8 occurrence, they will say, pardon the breeze, they will say that it means it is the weekly Sabbath. But the ninth and final one, which occurs in Colossians 2 verse 16, they say that it's not the weekly Sabbath, it's one of those ceremonial Sabbath, the other Sabbaths that are spoken of. That is a striking inconsistency for you. It cannot be that the first 8 times, you understand, it means weekly, and then the 9th time wouldn't this consistency demand that the 9th occurrence actually is the weekly Sabbath. Likewise, the Greek word Sabbaton, mentioned in the New Testament, it's used about 59 times, I think, somewhere there about, but I'll post it on the screen. And every single occurrence, the first 58, from between the 4 Gospels and the book of Acts, the first 58, they will tell you that it's a weekly Sabbath. But the final, the 59th or final time, they will say that it's not the weekly Sabbath and it cannot be. Striking inconsistency there for you again. I could go on and on. Let me give you some inconsistencies from the United Pentecostal Church. When you go to 1 Corinthians chapter, I think it's chapter 13. Yeah, I think it's chapter 13. No, rather chapter 12. When some rhetorical questions was asked, do all do this? Do all do that? Do all speak with tongues? They will tell you that the answer for all of them is no. But when it comes to the part that says that do all speak in tongues, the answer for that is either they are silent or they will say, no, it doesn't mean that. They will say, no, it doesn't mean that. I could go on and on with them, Like, say, for instance, when Jesus said, I and my Father are one. For them, it means singular. It's one and the same person. But yet in John chapter 17, when he says the same thing, that for we are one, mentioning his people and himself, when Jesus is talking about his people and himself. And they will tell you that it doesn't mean that they are one single person. Yet the same Greek word is used for John chapter 10 verse 31, and it's the same Greek word used in John chapter 17. Yet still the one in John chapter 10 verse 30, it means singular, and yet still the one in John chapter 17, it doesn't mean singular. Inconsistency there. You understand? And you know the contradictions and the contrary statements. Take for instance Mormons, where contrary statement is concerned. They believe that there are three gods. You understand that you can become a god. And for Jehovah's Witness, they say that you shouldn't even pray for anyone. It's a sin to literally pray for anyone. It's a sin to give blood. You understand? And pains of death. It's a sin to do so many things. A sin to celebrate birthday, holidays, and so forth. You understand? Those are the contrary statements. And it's far more than that. I just pick out a few from the tip of my head to actually tell you. You understand? And the contradictions are many. So with every cult, you understand, you will find a significant amount of contradictions. You will find significant amount of some contrary and extremely bizarre statements. You understand? And inconsistency. And as I always say, inconsistency is the start of a failed argument. If in your theology you cannot be consistent, then something is wrong with your theology. If you have to be inconsistent to prove what you're actually saying, then without a shadow of a doubt, it means that what you believe, you should really check it. Because you would agree that God is a consistent God. And if he's a consistent God, what he's teaching you should actually be consistent. Right? What he's teaching you should actually be consistent. So if you believe something and you can't be consistent with what you believe, then something is wrong with your belief. And we find this more so among cults. You understand their belief system filled with contradictions, filled with contrary statements, and filled with inconsistencies. Now, as I said, this is a very short video. I was just talking to you about these subjects. I'm actually finished now. I do hope that you enjoyed it. I actually just reached home as well. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment where necessary, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell icon so that you can receive notifications whenever I make new uploads. And last but not least, share this video with whom you know will benefit from an amazing video like this. Bye bye now.